So, hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about some really cool AI stuff, some real new features with Reallusion's iClone and how you can render in AI. I'm going to give a brief introduction to my friends here. This is James Martin, Professor of Practice over at Georgia State University. And we also got with us Max Thomas, also Professor of Practice at Georgia State. And these two guys are going to tell you a lot of cool stuff about AI. Some of it may be a little bit more complex than what you're used to. But stick with us. You're going to learn a lot and a lot of really useful stuff towards the future of Reallusion, the future of AI rendering, and a lot of other stuff as well. Before we get started, just so you know, we are recording this webinar. So if you have to step away for coffee or something like that, or bathroom break or whatever, don't worry about it. We'll send you a link to the recording afterwards, and you can review it on your own time. As well, we are going to be sending out surveys at the end of the webinar. So if you have anything you want to talk about, any features you want to learn about more in the future, let us know in the feedback forms. Max and John won't, or James won't get that. I'll get that though. Our Reallusion will get that, and we'll give you more of what you want in the future here. And we are live broadcasting as well on YouTube, but we're not going to be answering questions from YouTube, which brings me to our next point here. We are going to be having a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar. So if you have any questions, please put your questions in the Q&A panel, Q&A Zoom panel there, and we'll be happy to answer those after the live demo that Max and James are going to get through here. So yeah, anything you guys want to say to introduce yourself real quick? I got some promo stuff to do, but why don't you introduce yourselves quick first?
Sure. So I'm James Martin. I'm a professor of practice at Georgia State, but I'm also the CEO and technical director at Actor Capture. I was also the very first certified trainer in the United States for the Reallusion ecosystem of tools. So I've been doing this since iClone 1.0. I'm happy to help anybody walk through kind of where we're going with Character Creator today and also with iClone.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Max Thomas. I'm a professor of practice at Georgia State University and CTO over at Actor Capture. We do a lot of production, mostly virtual production, motion capture based. We are heavily invested in Reallusion products in our pipeline in terms of essentially how they move us forward and allow us to accomplish the things we do on set. So long-term users and have really enjoyed actually having the opportunity to play with some of these new AI tools. So, hopefully we got a lot of really cool stuff for you guys today.
Right on. As you guys probably know, I'm Kai. You may know me from such webinars or tutorials as how to walk your character, how to do kind of cool stuff in iClone. Anyways, you probably recognize my voice from a lot of tutorials anyways. I don't really need to introduce myself, but I have a couple of promo things to get through here before we get started. We have some really cool promos going on. It's our 25th anniversary. Hopefully you can see the screen right now. I'm going to throw this link into the chat as well. This is our 25th anniversary special, so it's 45% off of this package right here. I'll send the link in the chat so everyone can see it and check it out on their own. There we go. You can see me again there. Let's get back to here. All right, so this is probably the best deal we've had in a long time. Highly recommend you guys check this deal out. You can get Character Creator 5 as a free upgrade. You'll also get our Actor plugin right here. This is going to come with Character Creator 5 as well. So this is a really cool feature. You can learn more about it on our promo videos and everything like that. So check this out. I'm also going to put a couple of links. We put these links already in the chat, but for those of you who are just joining us, we have our AI render competition right here, AI render open beta. And I want you guys to check this out. This is where people will share all their cool AI renders. You can see the very first one. This is 26 days ago, so it's been going on for a while. And we're entering our second round right now. So this is Camilla AI render. I'll just throw this in the chat for everyone so you can get it real quick. And also some more information on, let's go back to this one here. Some more information on templates for AI render. Reallusion has provided a couple of templates for you here. James and Max will talk you through a lot of the details on how to use this kind of stuff, but I want to put the information here. Save this as a link or a favorite for later because you're going to want to use it after all the stuff that James and Max are going to teach us. So make sure you save this forum thread here, discussions.reallusion.com. And yeah, I think, to be honest, that's really all I have to get through. Again, we will have the Q&A at the end of today's webinar, so feel free to put your questions in the Q&A at any point, any questions you have, and we'll answer those at the end. So I think that's it for me. I'm going to hand the reins over to James and Max, who are going to give you a live demo, some really cool stuff ahead. So make sure you stay with us, and you guys can go ahead and hit it.
Awesome. Max, take it away.
All right. Can everyone see my screen okay there?
Looks good to me. Yep, all
Awesome.
good.
All right, guys. So we have a lot of exciting stuff to talk about today. And really, the backbone of what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you guys kind of how we can use cloud compute GPUs in the background to power our workflows or to scale things up, depending on whether, maybe you don't have a GPU that's powerful enough to run some of these high-end models, or maybe you just want access to something, more powerful or to run multiple instances at once. Sometimes when you get into videos, it might take a little while to render, those really huge models. Things like Flux can be pretty fast, and we might be okay with like a 4090. But if we really want to run, some of these models at the absolute highest level, then we have to use something maybe like an RTX 6000 Blackwell, or even an RTX 6000 ADA with 48 gigs of RAM will get it done in most cases for video renders. So, a lot of tools at your disposal, and these are going to be two kind of competitive options that make things a lot more accessible. So maybe you're not going out spending $4,000 on a new GPU. You just simply rent one for $1 to a couple dollars an hour, whenever you need it, and can turn it off whenever you don't. And so that's kind of what we're going to use as the back end for this. And we're going to focus around like a 4090, something with 24 gigs of VRAM that'll get you up and going. And so Reallusion has made this very easy. Just wanted to kind of start you out with the landing pages here, and then we'll kind of start getting into the meat and potatoes of things here. So let's take a look. Um, Hopefully, many of you guys are familiar with Reallusion's iClone and Character Creator, or maybe you're here joining us from the Comfy UI side, and these are kind of new tools to you from that end as well. And that's okay, because we're going to start from a very simple level with two characters that many of you are probably familiar with, and if not, you will be after today. We're going to talk about Kevin and Camilla. And one of the first things that I want you guys to do is to make sure you follow that Google Drive link, that was given to you, so that you can download your assets for today. Just going ahead and take care of that, because you can probably work right along with us. That's going to give you access to your workflows here that we're going to use today. And this is also going to give you access to some thumbnails. They're just 512 by 512 images. You can, of course, use your own, but these are just so that you don't have to scramble to find one while you're trying to get your workflow in there today. I also have provided you with two LoRAs. This is a Camilla LoRA and a Kevin LoRA. And we'll talk a lot more about how we made these next week whenever you guys tune in, for that lecture kind of webinar type scenario. So let's dive in and take a little bit of a deeper look into this. So what essentially the Reallusion AI beta plugin is allowing us to do is bridge Reallusion tools like Character Creator and iClone to Comfy UI. And that's extremely powerful. And the nature of that is, Comfy UI is just going to be our open source platform that's going to allow us to really dive in there and play. And so whether you've installed it locally, or this is your first time kind of checking this out, we're going to make this really easy for you to get in there. So one of the first things that I want to do is I'm going to go in and I'm actually going to fire up Character Creator 4 over here, and we're just going to pull up Camilla and going ahead and get her ready to send over to iClone and get everything prepped before we start launching our cloud instances. James, do you want to talk a little bit about Character Creator for a second there?
Absolutely. And basically, Character Creator is our central casting. So if you're not familiar, it's a character generation tool that allows us to start with a fully rigged character base, face to fingertip. And this is great for a variety of different wardrobe options, hair options, and certainly different types of avatars. So any ethnicity, any gender, or fantasy characters can be basically personified inside of Character Creator. And this gives us a high level of control already with our digital characters. And it's also very easy to use because it's a morph-based sliding system. But for the sake of today's tutorials and the timing that we have for this webinar, we're just going to use the base default Camilla, which everybody has upon installing the Character Creator.
All right, so we've got Camilla loaded up, and I've already got iClone pulled up in the background. If you don't have it open already, all you have to do is come up here to the top and hit the send to iClone button. It'll open things up for you. I've got it open just so things will be a little bit faster and we don't have to wait on any loading. But you'll see that Camilla is now here in iClone. I originally accessed both of these through the Reallusion hub that I have open in the background. That makes things super easy to get everything fired up initially. And so now I have Camilla here. I could get everything set up to animate, and we'll do that for our second round. But to begin with, we'll just start with kind of a close up shot of Camilla and just try to maintain her likeness with her LoRA and just kind of take you through that process. So to keep things quick, I'm going to drag Camilla in. What I'm going to do is I've actually came over here to my 2D backgrounds. I already had it up, but I'm just going to drop in a gradient light white background just so we can kind of get more of a studio white cyc wall type scenario to work with here. And you'll see that I have my AI render tools already showing up at the top because everything's installed. And what we need to do is to be able to connect this. And so right now I could launch it on my local setup, but what we want to do is run it in the cloud. So kind of our real goal here is going to be able to move this over to our LAN connection. And before we do that, we need to actually get our pod going inside of RunPod, and we also need to get RunComfy launched as well. So everything's set here for me. I'm just going to go on ahead and save this just so I have it. I'll just call it Webinar 01. And we'll leave that up and going. So now we're essentially ready to kind of go back and start looking at where we want to go with our workflow. So in this case, we're going to run a Flux workflow. So Flux has several models that are extremely awesome for working with AI. They produce very high quality results. With any type of AI, you're going to have occasional things that you have to deal with, and you may have to hit the casino a few times. But, with a little bit of seed searching and some good ControlNet, you can get some really great results with Flux. So whether that's context or one dev or one dev Crea, whatever you really want to use, there's lots of options that can produce really great results, including FP8, which is a little bit more reduced. And we've seen awesome results with that as well, even on like a 3080. So definitely lots of options to get you up and going and working with these latest models or, whatever you really want to try to pursue. So when I first started really getting into this, I do want to give a shout out to Benji's AI Playground because I get a lot of workflows from Benji. I've been following him for a while. And as you can see, he's got his new video out with iClone 8 that's kind of talking about his experience from being an AI specialist, but maybe not having so much of a 3D background and how easy he was able to get in with the tools and start playing with AI. But just wanted to give him a shout out for how much he's helped with being able to follow his work with the latest models and getting those kind of going. So really awesome. Now we're kind of getting to the fun part, which is, sorry, I got a little bar popping up at the top, so I got to bring that down for just a second. We're going to actually launch our RunPod template first because it takes a little bit longer to get up and going. So it can be processing in the background. And then we're going to fire up RunComfy, which is maybe a little bit more expensive, but much easier to use. And they have a great special for you guys with a deal with Reallusion. So you get a $5 credit to try everything for the first 100 Reallusion users that try this. And there's also several, really competitive options for getting access to a high-powered GPU without a lot of, hard work to get there. So Reallusion's done a lot to make sure these templates work very well and are really easy for you to use. So like I said, I'm going to go on ahead and fire up the RunPod template. Actually, I'm going to go back and I'm going to launch that in a new tab. Oop. Can't reach the top of my screen. All right. So whenever you click this, it is going to take you kind of directly to the GPU tab, but that's not really where we kind of want to start with RunPod. Like, so if this is your first time logging in, you will actually need to create an account. I just logged in through like Google, makes it really easy to get in there, and you have to actually go down to your billing tab, and you'll need to add either cash or some Bitcoin or kind of whatever the currency of your choice is. You can load 10, 25 bucks to get started. The awesome thing about RunPod is it's going to give you, let's see, sorry, I have to actually have a network volume before I can show you all the GPUs. But so the first thing that you want to do before you actually go pick out your GPU is you want to really kind of set up your network storage volume, which is where your Comfy UI is going to live, where all your models are going to live. And once you do this the first time, it'll be much, much faster the second time you load it up. It's very easy to use. So once we get into RunPod, we want to come up and we're going to click on our storage on the left side once we're logged in, and we're going to choose a location that has the GPUs that we want to use. So for this particular instance, I know that like Illinois has usually got a lot of 4090s, North Carolina's got a lot of 4090s. If I'm looking for quadros, sometimes I'll go hit Washington. I probably shouldn't be giving away all my RunPod secret locations, but this is really kind of where I go when I'm looking to get GPUs to run pods, whether I'm making like training LoRAs in the background or just want to not utilize my A6000 in my computer. So I'm going to come in here and the default size is 10 gigabytes. And what I want to do is I want to increase this a bit. I like to have about 200 gigabytes because these models are really large and I plan on working with both video and image workflows. And that's going to give me enough space to do that. And you'll see that's going to increase the price a little bit. And so that will cost you $14 a month if you keep this live and you keep this stored for an entire month. You don't have to do that. You can basically get rid of it as soon as you're done. For this one, I'm just going to call this RLRP02 for Real Illusion RunPod 02. And I'm going to go on ahead and create that network volume. And so you'll see that I have one already up and running, and this is just RLRP02. So all I have to do now is select that volume that I've created and go up to the top and hit deploy pod with volume. And so now we get to see all those super cool GPUs that I was talking about that I wanted to show you a minute ago. And so you can see that in Illinois, we have 4090s and we've got some RTX 6000 ADAs, and it's not much of a price difference, honestly, to go on ahead and kick it up if you need that 48 gigs of VRAM to tackle some video. So that'll make things really easy. And if you're trying to get out a little bit cheaper, these RTX A5000s come at a good deal too at 27 cent versus 69 cent if you have to wait a little bit longer for it, probably a great deal. So I'm just going to grab a 4090 because I know it'll get the job done. And I'm going to go in and you can see that I already have the Real Illusion template loaded up, but if for some reason that doesn't load up for you, just come over here to change template and type in Real Illusion at the top, and you'll see that it's available here for you as well. So just going ahead and choose the one that says full latest version. This is going to give you access to all the original SD 1.5 models and stuff, as well as Flux and WAN. So, go ahead and lock that one in. So you would think we're ready, but we're not quite there. We still have a couple of things that we got to take care of. And I promise we're almost there, and it's really just the first time that you go around that you have to do all this. So I'm going to call this RLRP02, the exact same as what I called my storage volume. I just like to keep everything consistent. If it's different LoRA, sometimes I'll name it after the character, but a lot of different options there. So now we need to go to Hugging Face. So if you've never been to Hugging Face before, you're going to have to create an account. You can just log in with Google the same way you log in with RunPod. It's going to be really easy. Once you've logged in, you'll see your little profile icon in the top right corner, and you can click on that, and you have to go down to where it says access tokens. So you can see I already have one created, but I'm going to show you how to make one from scratch. So all you have to do, this is really, really easy. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you permission to download these models and to download some of these things that you have to have permission for because it's just part of it. They're very powerful models that can be used to do a lot of things, and they want to kind of know who's downloading them. So part of the process that is required, whether it's local, or in the cloud like we're doing right now. So RLRP02 token. And all I need for this, I'm just naming the token. You can name it whatever you want. You can call it Hugging Face token, really anything. You just have to come here and check the first two boxes under fine grained. So you have read access to contents of all repos under your personal namespace and read access to contents of all public gated repos you can access. And this is what will allow you to pull those models successfully and to ensure that this is a smooth process. And so you're going to come down to the bottom and you're going to create that token. and you're going to just copy it. And now we can go back to RunPod. And so I'm actually going to come over here to the right where it says secrets, and I'm going to right click this and open it in a new tab as well. And what I have to do is I have to create a new secret to kind of encapsulate my token. So I'm going to create the secret. I'm just going to paste the value in here, and I'll just call it, RLRP02 secret. And I'm going to go on ahead and just hit create secret. And so you'll see now it shows up as a nice like selectable option. And we have to do this to actually go forward with our pod. So let me pull that down one more time here. All right, so we've got everything named. We're right back to our run pod. We didn't have to let go of it or do anything to it. We just had to set something up and we got to edit this template. So this is really our final step. The container disk by default is set to 40 gigabytes. I like to set mine to 100, especially if I'm working with video models. I just like it to be a little bit larger. It's probably fine with 40. Like I said, that's just something I do. And where we have this HF token slot right here, this is where we have to plug that secret in. So all we have to do is just come in here and plug in that secret, and then we have to choose any of the models that we want to download. And you only have to do this the first time on your pod. So like once you've terminated your pod and closed it out, the next time you launch it, if you already have it installed, you don't have to reinstall it again. So that makes things extremely convenient. To make things fast, I'm only going to install Flux for now, but if you want to install everything to get you through the next 3 week of webinars, then go on ahead and install Flux and go on ahead and install Flux Fusion X WAN Vase, and that'll get you covered. And the way you do that is you just come down here where it says false and change that to true and set the overrides and lock it in. And so once we've done that, we just come down to the bottom and deploy on demand. And so now our run pod is basically creating our computer in the background, and we can follow our logs and kind of see what's taking place. And for now, we would basically probably be waiting like 5 or 10 minutes for this to load up. So while this one's loading up, we're going to switch back to RunComfy and get everything going there. And we'll come back and we'll finish hooking up RunPod, which will be basically the exact same steps as RunComfy. Like I said, it just takes a little bit longer to load up to begin with. Um, but they have very competitive prices for their GPUs. So I'm a big fan. I like RunComfy a lot too. It's also a very awesome solution. So I'm going to come back to the tab and I'm going to go where we have the RunComfy template for Reallusion here. And I'm going to open this in a new tab as well. And so this will take you directly to the Reallusion workflow. If you don't have an account yet, you have to log in with Google for this as well, or whatever method you would like to use to create your account. And then we're just going to come right over to where it says run workflow. So this is really, really simple. And so now you have to choose what size computer GPU that you want to mess with. So for me, I'm going to use this 24 gigs of VRAM, and you can see that they're also using an A5000 right here. So very similar to like your 4090 performance. So I'm going to go on ahead and click on this and launch that up. The really nice thing is it does put a timer on it. So like I've fallen asleep with my run pod on a couple times, then burnt my account up. But one really nice thing about RunComfy is it has a timer, so you can decide kind of how long you want to work. So you can set that for an hour or 2 hours, and it'll just automatically log you out in case you fall asleep. Like I've done a couple times. Those late nights of AI. So let me go in and launch this thing. And so it takes just a few seconds for this to kind of get up and going as well. But it is much faster, and we'll get a nice little sound well, I'll get it. I don't know if you guys will hear it or not, but it does play a nice little sound to let you know. And it gives you warnings at 5 and 10 minutes whenever it's about to go down. So we're kind of at a point where we just kind of got to get one of these two up, and then we can connect everything back to Reallusion to iClone.
And as most of you know, iClone is kind of the sandbox where these characters live, are animated, lights, cameras, particle effects, lots of different things are available to you there. Obviously, we'll be doing a little bit of animation application later. And our line of work, we are utilizing a lot of motion capture for this as well. And this is great because this is later going to give us further and deeper control both of our composition, which is our camera and sensor combination, and then also the full control of the character for facial animation and expression, all the way down to full body animation for character action.
Well, should have a machine here in just a second. We can check on our RunPod and see how that's going. And so with this one, we're kind of just waiting for it to download all these files. You can see that first time around, it's just pulling everything down to the machine and getting everything set up. And then once it's ready, it'll all pop up over here and connect, but we're just, we're not quite there yet. So, um, let's see. Maybe we try to launch another machine. There might be a lot of machines trying to launch at once.
Should I put on some elevator music?
Uh, it usually doesn't
Sounds
take very
great.
long to get one of these.
Yeah, this is a bit strange.
Well,
Yeah, for those of you who are just joining us here, we are recording this just so everyone knows. We're going to be sending you guys out a link on Monday. So if you missed anything, if you had to go to the bathroom or get a coffee or something, we're sending you the recording on Monday, everyone who joined up.
well, while we're waiting, I'll go on ahead and launch everything up in the run pod that I already had up, and we'll just talk a little bit about the model a little bit over there. So the workflow that we're going to work through today, guys, is our Flux One Dev Korea V2 that you have. So you can really use either one. There's going to be absolutely no differences. So you can use Flux One Dev if you just want to use the regular version. I'm going to use Korea for today. So I'm going to drop this in, and we'll just talk about things a little bit for a second while that Run Comfy fires up. So I also have a version that I prepared just for the webinar that is kind of broke down to help you understand a little bit more kind of about what's going on with the setup. So the way that we have to export our new workflows out of here is everything has to be exported as an API workflow, and that's just because that's how the Reallusion tool reads it. But sometimes when we're working with things, we may want to, we bring it in on an image that we drop in, or, we downloaded it from Flux or any type of example workflow that you may have gotten access to. But sometimes you have to learn how to, kind of adapt and modify these things so that they will work with the new system from Reallusion. So I've kind of highlighted everything, and the first thing I want to show you is the Reallusion render core. And so this is essentially the bridge from iClone over to Comfy UI. And this is going to allow us to, send over our renders that are developing in our history folder. It's going to allow us to send over our prompt information. We can set our frame rate. We can decide whether it's a image to video workflow or an image to image workflow or any kind of combination of that. It's also going to allow you to set your guidance and set your number of steps that you need to run. It's going to send over seed information and allow you to control all that from a super easy to access tool right inside of iClone. So that's going to make things really easy on that front. What these yellow icons, everything that's highlighted in gold here is the ControlNet. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that and show you. So whenever I'm working with Flux, I pretty much set everything up so that I run depth and open pose and canny. And predominantly, I really like depth and a little bit of light adjustment with open pose, if anything. Like I really mostly like depth unless I'm trying to control the background. And then sometimes I'll throw in a little bit of canny with it as well. But everything's essentially coming just through a combined ControlNet union model for Flux One Dev here, and everything should be downloaded and set up for you guys to use. So that'll make things really, really easy for you. Um, and then that's feeding into the apply control net over here. So that's really just, makes things a lot easier to understand. And besides that, you essentially have your positive prompt, and Flux doesn't really use a negative prompt, but our control net kind of requires it. So we pass it through over to the end till we get to our K sampler. We're also using a Power LoRa Loader RG3, which is connected up to iClone, that allows you to easily sort in whatever LoRa's you need for image or video based workflows. So that makes things really, really easy on that side. Let's take a look and see if our machine is doing anything for us here. Oop, open. Yes, we have a machine. Awesome. So that kind of just shows you a little bit of what's going on with the workflow that we're going to send over. And like I said, I just color coded it to make it a little bit easier for anybody that was, kind of basically first diving into it and trying to understand how to pipe in your own custom workflows into the system. But for now, I'm going to give you the whole workflow so it'll make things really easy. All right, so here we are inside of RunComfy, and I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I'm just going to choose my workflow, the Flux One Dev Creo, and I'm going to drop it in. And all I want to do is just kind of check it and make sure that I have the models that I want. Luckily, one thing that's really nice about the RunComfy machines is usually they have like a lot of the models already installed on them. So we do need our T5 XXL encoder and our clip L for Flux, and need to make sure that you also have your AE safe tensor. Like I said, all of this should be linked up, so it just works right out of the box for you. But it's always good to kind of check and just make sure that those models are there. So let me move my chat panel out of the way real quick. So over here on the right side of the screen, you'll see that you have access to your Comfy UI folders. This is basically just your installation like you would see on your local machine. And inside of here, you also have a models folder. And so inside of this models folder, we're looking for a folder called LoRAs, which is our low rank adaptation files. And so these are basically just like character DNA. And so you'll see that we've kind of already have these installed here for you. So you have, Flux Realism available to you, which is just going to be used as a realism booster with the CG character. And you also have Camilla and Kevin here for you to play with. So Camilla's one that I made a lot, really early on. So this Camilla was trained on 76 images, and this Kevin was trained on 26. And I really think kind of the sweet spot is like 26 to 41, and that this Camilla is maybe a little bit overtrained, but it still works really well and it's fun to play with. So hopefully you guys will have some fun. So let's say this is your workflow that you've put together and you're ready to export it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need a workflow. How do I get it out of here? So all you got to do once you've got everything set up is you just come up the workflow and you go export API and name it whatever you want. Like I'll just call this one demo and hit confirm. And that's going to send that right to my downloads folder. So it's right there for me to use. You can use the one, you can export your own if you want just to try the process, or you can use the one that I've already given you. So now that everything is set up here, we are essentially ready to connect this thing to iClone so that we can get everything working. So you do have to do something a little bit tricky here, and I'm just going to kind of show you. I have a word pad or a notepad over here to help me out with the process. And so what I need is essentially the last little bit of numbers here at the top of the URL. So after it says servers and dash, I'm just going to copy that. And there's a link to this exact instruction set on the install here. It shows you. So if anybody's confused on this, it'll show you exactly what you need and the format that you have to put it in. But I've kind of already set mine up so I can do that. And I'm just going to replace the Y's in the text. And then that'll give me the link of what I need to actually launch this inside of iClone and link it up. So basically, I'm just going to come up here and click my settings like I normally would, but I'm going to paste this in and I'm going to connect it. And so you'll see that everything is connected and it's good to go. And the last thing I need to do before moving forward is to check my history and make sure that my history is set somewhere that makes sense for you and your computer and your storage situation. So for me, I just have everything going right to my F drive into a history folder, and that works for me. Or actually, let's see. Now I've done it to myself. I'm going to put it on the F drive there, so it'll just go into that history folder. It would have just made it a history folder, but that's okay. So now what we need to do is we're going to go up and we're going to click AI render. And this is going to give us access to not only the preloaded workflows that come with iClone that give you lots of different options to play with SD 1.5 and image to image or image to video and to be able to use some of those things, but we can also kind of add our own stuff. So you can see I already have one for Crea here. I'm going to delete this one out and just make a new one. And so the way that we add a custom workflow is we just come up top to this little drop down and we go add. And let me see if I can make this tool a little bit bigger for you guys. So all we have to do is navigate on our computer to the file that I've provided you guys. So for me, I just have it in the webinar folder, and I'm just going to grab this Flux 1D Crea RLV2, and I'm going to click open, and that's going to add that there. If you want to add a video workflow to it, you can. There's already a few that are built in. You can use WAN 2.1 Fun, you can use WAN 2.1 Base 1.3B, or you can run the full weight Fusion X14B. So really kind of your decision based on your hardware and what you're running. In this particular case, I'm just going to go image to image. So I'm going to leave that set to none. And I do need to name this. So I'm going to name it Flux 1 Dev Crea. And inside of my tags, I'm going to go Flux and I'm going to put Crea. And then I'll probably put like ControlNet and LoRA, just so I know kind of what I have going on. And then you can type your name in. And this is where you need a cool little thumbnail. And this particular case, I'm just going to use the one of the GTR. And you can also add a description here if you want to. I'm just going to go on ahead and click OK. And so now you'll see that my custom workflow is available to me right inside of the menu. And I'm going to click Apply. And so I'm going to take my AI render tool and I'm just going to dock it over here on the right, so that I can start modifying things and getting everything into place. So the first thing that I like to take care of is just to go on ahead and set up my LoRa so I don't forget to go back and do it later, because it's really easy to do. And then you just end up making what you wanted, but it won't be Camilla, it'll be someone else. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hit plus, and I'm going to hit plus again so I can add two. And I'm going to go on ahead and activate the checkbox to turn those on. And I just have to dive in and actually find my LoRas. And the first one that I'm looking for is the Flux Realism LoRa. I like to put it on top because I feel like it just feels like it works a little better for me that way. I feel like the Camilla LoRa is stronger. So I'm going to add the Flux Realism LoRa there. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to search for Camilla as well. And I'm using Camilla version 6. I don't like to use them trained past like 6 or 7 whenever I train them, just because I feel like they get too overtrained. So I'm going to dial back the strength a little bit. I don't want to run everything at a full weight of 1:1. I'm going to go 0.65 for Camilla. And to start out with, I like to keep things at a value of 1, but sometimes I will break those rules and overdrive things a little bit. So I'm going to dial this one in at like 0.35. I think that's like a kind of a good starting place for this LoRa. With my Kevin LoRa, I like to actually dial his strength down to like 0.55 as a starting point. He has an even stronger LoRa really than Camilla does for me. So I just find that to blend it with the realism and get that kind of balance, it's a little bit of playing with the numbers, but ideally you're probably going to be between like 0.5 and 0.7, honestly. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take a look at our ControlNet. And so we have 3 different options that are all really powerful. So I'll turn them all on for just a second. And so this is Edge or Canny, and this is basically just going to give us the outline of our character. It's really great for picking up the background if you're trying to do like something like the bathroom shampoo scene and you want to make sure the shower's coming through the way you want. That's where I would use Edge. But like I said, predominantly, I don't use Edge very much, and I do like Pose, but I honestly like live and die by the depth maps. So with Pose, I like to dial this down to like point 0.3 or 0.35 for the strength of that. And then on the depth map, I like the first thing you really want to do when you start working with this is you can see it's black and we don't really see her dialed in at all. And but that's going to be really easy for us to fix. With Flux, we don't really want to run full weight on this range. We would just want to go on ahead and set that to partial. So our strength is at like zero point 0.5. You can dial it in further if you want. Like ideally with the strength, I'm going to keep my strength at zero point 0.5 and I'm going to set the range at 0 to zero point 0.5, but I may fluctuate between 0.35 and like 0.65, whether I want it to dream more or whether I want the control net to have more influence. And so this is just essentially set up for a mid shot right now, but as soon as we click portrait, we're going to see that we start to get her depth map coming through, but it's not super detailed yet. And we can fix that by coming in here and fine tuning our near clip plane and our far clip plane. So with something that's really close like this, we're probably not going to even need to go all the way to 30. We can even go to start at something like 15 or as low as 11. Like, so let's try 11 actually and just see what that looks like. And I think it'll be, ooh, actually we're a little bit too far back. So I was wrong today. Um, Try 15. She's starting to come through a little bit there. So this one might end up needing to be like a 5 to 17 or something like that at the current depth that it's at. So if you're at a mid shot, you're going to have to adjust these a little bit. If it's, full body shot, it's going to be a little bit different. And if it's up close, you might be like 1 to 11, honestly, if you're getting really close up on the face. But you can see that's going to give you like a much softer depth map to work with. And all these will show up in your history folder so you can look at them full screen. So basically, that's really kind of what I'm going for when I dial that in. And then I'm going to get into putting in a prompt. And like I said, Flux doesn't really care at all about the negative prompt. You can take it out or you can add something if you really want to, but you can go on ahead and not really worry about that negative prompt so much with Flux. So I'm going to go straight into the positive. And what I like to kind of do is start out by describing the type of shot. And so for this one, I'm gonna start out by saying an ultra realistic close up, and then once I have that in, I'm gonna try to describe Camilla or my subject matter. In this particular case, I just have one character, so it's not that hard to do that. But I'm gonna say a 27-year-old beautiful woman with shoulder length blonde hair and brown eyes. Actually, I forgot to put in I do want to come back in and add Camilla here because that's going to be my trigger word for my LoRA. So I could add it in later, but it'll be fine right up at the front. So an ultra realistic close up of Camilla, a 27-year-old blonde woman with shoulder length or 27-year-old beautiful woman with shoulder length blonde hair and brown eyes. And then I'm going to describe what clothing is shown. Like in this case, all I can see is her shirt, so I'm not going to try to describe her jeans because if you do that, it will do its best to put it in there and you're going to get renders where you have like shirts that are made out of blue jeans and stuff like that. So I'm going to say she is wearing a pink crop top. And from here, I'm going to start describing the background. You could describe like her facial expression if she was smiling or laughing or doing anything like that. But for now, I don't really have to do anything for this simple render. So I'm going to describe the background next. And so I'll say the background is a white cyc wall with studio lighting. Oh, actually, I'm going to say with bright, even studio lighting. And then from here, I would use like I like to describe the camera that I'm using, like typically like an Arri Alexa or Red, just because I'm an AI, I'm using AI, I can use whatever camera I want. So why not use the good stuff? And it'll just use it as a reference really. But Arri Alexa, LF Mini, and I'm going to run like a 50 millimeter because that's what's on an iClone. And one thing I will warn you about is for now, if you're really relying on depth map, don't turn on depth of field because it creates a little bit of haloing with your depth map. But that's something that I'm sure will be worked out. But that's one thing I have noticed is to not run your depth of field if you want to do that. Just let the AI create the depth of field. So I'll go F, 1.8, and then I'll say shallow depth of field here. And then I'll add in like any type of like word, like power phrase words that I want to use, like cinematic, movie scene, or, high quality commercial, whatever you really are kind of going for there. And then I also like to use things like high quality hair, high quality hands if they're showing, um, face, skin, fingers, anything like that, because you can't negative prompt with Flux, but you can sometimes use power words like that to try to bring it home. And just to be sure that I'm calling my realism LoRA, I'm going to add that at the end here, and that should be good enough for my prompt. But basically, the simple structure, try to keep it within like 150 words. Sometimes that could be, difficult depending on how much you have going on. And sometimes you can over prompt it and things will get lost in it, and you have to go back to like building a LoRa to make it happen because Flux just doesn't really know how to create necessarily what you've asked it to sometimes. Um, so from here, you have options with just dialing in your model. And so we took a look at that on the Comfy side, and now we're going to look at that on the iClone side. So we have randomized seed, and that's kind of where I like to go with. And once I find something I like, I'll switch over to fixed and just kind of dial it in. So on our detail steps, if I'm working at 720, I'll run 20 steps. But if I'm running 1920 by 1080, then I'm going to bump that up to like 28 steps. In terms of your CFG and your guidance, you can kind of fluctuate this between like 1.0 or zero point 0.5 even if you really wanted to, all the way up to like 1.3. But I don't really push this past 1.3, and it's perfectly fine to leave that set just at 1.0 to be honest. Like it'll dream more if you go to 1.2. Um, in terms of like denoise, I don't really move from one on Flux, but I see some people drifting down to like zero point 0.8. But pretty much that's kind of where I like to live at with that. And like I was saying, if you want to do full body renders, I think it's better to go like 1080 by 1920 and then to use another type of solution to basically outpaint that or something like that, or send it over to Flux Context where you make that additional final step there. But lots of different options here. And so now we're pretty much ready. We're set up. Everything's linked up. We should be ready to hit preview and everything should work for us. If not, we'll take a look and figure out why. Oh, we got an execution error. That's not good. Hmm. Let's check that out really quick. Let's make sure that's linked up correctly. It's all right. If it doesn't work, that's all right. We'll just we'll link up our run pod and we'll come back. We'll fire up another one of these and come back to it or check out the workflow and see what's up. All right, so that should be connected. Let me fire things up one more time here. So we've got all our steps in. We'll add our LoRas back. Whoop. Switch workflows real quick.
And next week, we'll be talking more about how to actually create your own LoRas utilizing iClone
Hmm.
and how to get those 26 to 41
Let
images
me
that are
see.
very specific to maintain the continuity of the characters. So if you're not quite sure yet what a low range adaptation model is, we'll be looking at that more next week and showing you how to actually use iClone to pick and choose what that wardrobe will be, what the expressions will be, and some of the more traditional kind of animation and character building workflows that you're used to inside of Character Creator and iClone, but at the same time, bringing that over, making those decisions, and then getting all of the benefit of the control map and the ControlNet assets out and back into Comfy to get a more realistic and better result for a more photoreal output every time.
It may not have had our ControlNet union. Yeah, that can happen. So what happened here, guys, is it's just, I guess it didn't register our ControlNet union. Um, but that's okay. We can export that again. Just make sure it's just going to export that, make sure it's all good. And we'll link that back up really quick and get right back where we were at.
Yeah, Slater had mentioned in the chat, thanks Slater for that. If you right click in the Comfy UI interface and select follow workflow on the menu, it'll show you kind of where in the nodes it stops. So that's a good tip for everyone as well. If you're
Oh,
frustrated
yeah.
on finding out what's happening. Max is a smart guy though, he figured it out by himself.
There's also a really easy, they made it really easy with the history too. So if something goes wrong, you can always just drag this back in and you can run the workflow again inside a Comfy here, and that'll help you troubleshoot it and find any issues that are going on with that particular workflow. It basically runs it in the background, but it's okay. We'll get this going really quick. That's no big deal, guys. We'll just make sure everything's working here. All right, let's try that connection. Oh, whoops. I need the one from here. And if not, I'll just link my RunPod back up, and we'll make sure we can show that this is going, and then I'll get this going for you guys. Um, all right, so just to be sure that I have that correct workflow in, I want to make sure one last time, and I'm going to modify this workflow, and I'm going to pull the one that I just sent to my downloads to ensure that it's correct. I'm going to hit apply to lock that workflow back in, and we'll just get these settings in as quickly as we can here. So now I can add my LoRas back again. Hopefully we'll be all good to go. All right, let's go down to our Flux Realism LoRa, and we'll get our Camilla LoRa put back in. Set that one to 0.35, 0.65 on the strength for my Camilla. I'm going to set this to partial. I go back to my pose strength, set that to 0.35, depth value 0.5 on that. I'm going to go to portrait and believe we were pretty good at about 17 or 5 to 17 looked pretty good. All right. Let me get this going again. Ultra realistic close up of Camilla. It's lowercase for the LoRa, a 27-year-old blonde woman. I'll copy it this time just in case something goes wrong. With shoulder length blonde hair, and brown eyes. She is wearing a pink crop top shirt. Background is a professionally lit white cyc wall. Um, and then I'll just put in the camera call again. Arri Alexa Mini LF, and then I'll give that a 50 millimeter. I'm going to give it a f1.8 aperture, and then I'll just say shallow depth of field, cinematic, movie, scene, high quality hair, and realism. And that should be good enough for that. We'll come back over here. We'll try this again. We'll go to 28 on our detail steps. I'm just going to leave everything at 1 and 1, and I'm going to fire that off, and hopefully it will go on through this time. There we go. This looks like everything's working great. Can always check the terminal. Oh no, we got an error on something too. All right, well for now, for just this second, let me just link this up to the RunPod just because I want to see this go on through for you guys. All right, so I'm going to copy this and close this down really quick, and let's link this back up. I will have to dump the LoRAs because it doesn't register them if they were still left over from the other setup. And you'll see that I have a lot less here. I'll show you how to set this up on the other one in just a second. And hopefully we'll get RunComfy to work for us. I think it's just that the ControlNet model, it's not recognizing that ControlNet model. But that's okay. We can swap it out and get that fixed. It's actually kind of cool to see it. All right, so everything's linked up. We should be good to go to just fire this off with the other computer. Uh, I'm sorry, it's probably because the workflow. Okay, so I'm applying that workflow. I do have to swap those out again. Just don't trust it without swapping them if I move the workflow. Um, all right, so everything should be linked up. Just check that connection one more time. Make sure that is our RunPod link, which it should be. And we're going to hit preview. All right, looks like we're in business now. I think it, like I said, guys, it's just a ControlNet model that isn't in um or isn't being recognized in that comfy instance, the RunComfy instance, and it's just something we can fix in our workflow that should sort that out for us. So the first time that you run this inside a RunPod, it's going to take a little bit longer than usual. It's just because it has to load in the models and get everything going, and that takes a little bit of time. But after you get it ran the first time, it should only take probably like 8 to 10 seconds per image after that. So it's a good bit quicker once it gets through it. Just kind of checking on it, making sure everything's going good, which it looks like it is. It's just processing.
Yeah, we got a lot of people commenting in the chat as well, people that have experience with this. A lot of good tips and tricks
Yeah.
for those of you who aren't paying attention to the chat. Go check it out. We got guys like Justin and Oleg who are experienced, and Slater as well, who are experienced with the workflow, giving some cool little tips on kind of tweaking your renders and stuff. So yeah, keep it coming, guys. Everyone here is looking
Oh yeah,
for
yeah.
tips and tricks as well. So
Yeah, totally. And admittedly so, I use a lot more RunPod than I do of RunComfy. I've kind of a little bit newer to it. But I may just try to fire up another one and while this one's going on our render here and see if we can get that going here. Or I'll try to sort it real fast.
um,
Our K sampler should be going in just a second and we'll have a render.
yeah, Job just asked in the chat how you save the chat. There's a little kind of ellipses on the bottom, right above where you can type messages on the right, and you can just
Yeah.
click it and save the chat.
Oh yeah, totally.
If you can't, I think that's for everyone. Everyone can do that, but if not, um, we can always send out the chat later in our email as well. There's a lot of good tips in the chat this time. So thanks everyone for that.
Model manager. Sometimes just a nice update will fix everything for you too, but I'm not seeing anything that really should be breaking that.
It's always when you're doing it live, it messes up, eh?
I
You
know
can do
I've
it
done
three
this
or four
like
times in preparation, and then
like no issues, and then all of a sudden, but it's okay. Our run pod's over there doing work. So, oh, she
yeah.
got a blue shirt because
Oh,
I didn't fix the prompt. So that, but at least we're hooked up and we're working. Let me fix the prompt and we'll get that sorted. That was just a prompt issue there, guys. We'll straighten this right out. 28. Make sure this is set to 0.35 and zero point 0.5 here. Partial strength. Dial that in. Oh, I was supposed to copy and paste that.
can everyone see in the chat that you can save the chat? There's a little ellipses right on the top right of the chat window or the chat pro or box there where you can enter in your message. Okay, I'll save the chat at the end of the webinar today, guys, and we'll send it out with the video for everyone because there's a lot of people here who have messed around a lot with it, and they have some good tips that I don't want everyone to miss. So yeah, so keep the chat clean. It's going out.
uh, Sorry, we'll get that prompt back in there real quick. Should have copied it. Professionally lit white cycle wall. It really doesn't matter. We could put her anywhere, but just get
Not
that
sure what the soap
information right
icon is
back in
there.
there. Uh,
Oh, keeping it clean. Yeah, well,
keeping it clean. Oh
soap
yeah.
soap in the chat. Yeah.
Uh, all right, we're gonna get it there, guys. Sorry, shallow depth of field, and then we'll do the high quality. That'll be enough. We can always adapt this a little bit tighter if we want to. Um, I'm gonna add that realism. We've got Camilla called. We've got everything. That should get it done. Kick that up to 28 steps, 111, and fire it off. And like I said, now it should go quicker. And we won't get something weird because I mean that's just to show you like if like how powerful a prompt is. Like just having that little bit of default prompt in there was enough to kind of override that.
I think that one's half Kevin, half Camilla.
It is, it is.
Yeah,
It took
it looked like it.
well, it was the default description we had in there was like really of Kevin, so that's kind of why it went that
Interesting.
way. But you can it's really nice now you can see it processing. So you can see we're not going to get something weird this time. There we go. A little bit of flip-flopping and we'll try to get Run Comfy back up there too. Like I said, I have a feeling it's got to do with this missing right here.
Yeah, so Michael, your rendered image and videos, I think they save on the local machine. Is that right, guys?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I'll actually show you that.
In case any of you guys are wondering, it doesn't save to the cloud. It just saves to your local machine.
Yeah, and that's part of the history folder and where you designate that in the beginning. So that's why you need to make sure that you allocate enough space and throw that history folder somewhere that you're going to iterate into.
All right. Let me add this workflow back really quick. Let's just make sure. Man, that should be in there. I'm going to check the ControlNet models just to make sure that if it's not in there. Oh, it is definitely not in there. So it looks like basically that our ControlNet is missing, but and that's probably what's causing this issue. So let me try to add that really fast. Oh, it says it's installed. Huh. Well, I'm not really exact. I have to take a little bit of a deeper look at that or fire up another one to try to mess with that right now, but I'm gonna go back to my RunPod stuff for a second and you'll see now we're getting like good renders out of that. So I do need to show you how to actually launch this on the RunPod for the first time because it doesn't have like your LoRa setup and everything in it. We can render this image in the background while we do that. So when I'm over in RunPod, you'll this is connected to the one that I already had set up, but we'll swap it out. So I'm basically gonna launch this for the first time over here on my new pod. Oh, and of course that one's gonna not load right now either.
So if you guys have any questions about all
Um,
this stuff going on, please put your questions in the Q&A. So we'll answer the Q&A after we've got a couple renders going on here.
I'm gonna deploy this pod. I need to check one thing right here really quick. Additional filters. You want to make sure that on RunPod that you're using a version that has 12.8 on the CUDA as well. That is super important for this. It will fail out if it is not on that specific 12.8 CUDA version.
Max, I'm also hearing that the Flux Korea file on the RunComfy side is incomplete, and that's what's causing that error.
Oh, that what is it? What'd they say?
That the seems to be caused by an incomplete Flux Korea file on the RunComfy.
Yeah.
So that's
That makes sense.
the
I can
fix.
try just dropping in the regular Flux one and see if we can get that one going. Maybe it's already set up for that right now. Um,
If anything, you guys got to get a master class in troubleshooting here. So
yes, for sure.
if this happens to you, now you know.
It can definitely happen. Like, I mean, that's half the battle with a lot of this stuff, honestly, is getting everything going that first time around. And so I'm just firing up another run pod because I didn't have that 12.8 CUDA. Apparently it was using a different version of CUDA that it didn't like. So it caused Comfy to not launch, but really like it's pretty pain free once you get it all going. Let's just try the other one. I've actually never had RunComfy fail on me, so that this is really the first time I've had it actually cause me any issues. So a little odd. Um, all right, so I'm gonna give this workflow a go and see if this will work out for us here. So there we go. There's just another nice render. So I mean, it does a really great job when you have everything dialed in. We can switch it up and when we get RunComfy back going with it too, and maybe have her like dance or something, do something a little bit cooler than just have her pose. So I'm gonna come in here. I'm not gonna actually I am gonna disconnect that. So I'm gonna disconnect my RunPod. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna connect RunComfy again. So I haven't changed anything in terms of that connection, so it's still gonna be that same address. And I'm just gonna dial that in, connect it. Everything's ready to roll there. And like I said, anytime you change these out, you have to swap your LoRas. It doesn't respect it whenever you change the back end of your Comfy UI. So let's go down and get that Flux Realism LoRa. We're gonna add in the Camilla LoRa again. And luckily I still have my prompt. So point. Oh yeah, we need to change the workflow. So it's gonna lose all this. Let me copy this actually just so we don't have to wait on that again. And we'll get that new workflow in there. So with this one, I'm just going to add that Flux One Dev original workflow. This is just the original Flux One Dev model with ControlNet and LoRa. I'm going to give it a special tag, Flux One Dev. ControlNet plus LoRa. Add an image. And so I'll select that just in case it messed up my LoRa's. If I change my model, I'm pretty much probably going to swap these out just to make sure everything's good because it's not really worth waiting the time for the render if it doesn't. Um, you always want to try to get as much right as you can and, just dial in the little stuff as you go and know that, stuff's going to happen with AI that you don't expect and you're probably going to make some mistakes along the way with at least one thing or another. And you just kind of got to roll with it.
And
Just
some of
going to
these
update
tools,
that.
like clipping planes, will feel very natural to iClone users who have already had experience with clipping planes for just simple camera use. So some of these tools will feel right at home to you, and you should have a pretty dialed in comfort level once you've gone through the process once or twice.
All right. So let's see if this will work with our Run Comfy now. It might have just been that model, and we could always go to like GitHub and pull it down to Run Comfy. Like it's totally set up to do that. Oh no, we got another error. All right. Hmm. For some reason, I'm having some issues with this Run Comfy instance. Let's see. All right, guys, I'm going to launch that one more time here and just see if we can get that going. It loads up really fast. Like I don't mind trying it again. See if we can get something going. It's really a great tool when everything's connected and working the way you intend. I said it may just be, that I need to add another model to that or something like that. Our new pod's spinning up. It should be almost done in just a second. Getting closer on that. You can see, you're getting closer when everything starts to pop up, but it's just not quite ready yet. But I would like to show you what Jupyter Lab is and how you can access the Linux computer in terms of RunPod, and how you can also add those LoRas here, update anything that you want.
We'll also be having a look next week at Jupyter Lab as well, because that's going to be where we will extract our LoRa's from once we've actually created those, like the ones that we're using today for Camilla.
Oh
Yeah, for
yeah.
those of you who aren't aware, we have another webinar next Friday and the Friday after that as well. We're going to go into more detail on this stuff. So
So I'll
hopefully you
just
guys can
connect
be there for that.
connect that RunPod back up while we're waiting here, and just fire that back out. And we'll just go on ahead, and since we're here, and we're already playing with RunPod, we can do a couple, like one or two more renders while we're at it. We'll just grab like a cool dance animation and throw it on Camilla. Um, I know there's a lot of really popular like Instagram stuff going on with AI videos now. So, there's lots of really nice dance animations right inside of iClone that you can use. Um, you totally find something a little bit where she's looking at the camera a little bit more here. See, I'm going to dial that back to right in here. I want to show something where her fingers are showing and we got a little bit of body overlap. Just because sometimes that can be a little bit difficult with AI. And I think Flux, with the depth map control inside of iClone, can do a really nice job with that sometimes. Um, it can really help you dial in those fingers and get renders that were, really hard to achieve not so long ago with AI tools. So, just running like a 5 to 20 on the depth map. You can see the fingers pretty good. Got a little bit of pose helping us out there as well. Um, Need to add my LoRa's back. And I'm going to go like 0.65 again, 0.35. And just to keep things concise here, I'll grab this again. Actually, let me just paste that in. She is performing uh, a hip hop dance. Could definitely describe her specific pose where her hands are and things like that a little better if you wanted to, but it'll probably do a pretty good job out of the box. Is like I said, it's mostly about this depth map and the pose and not like overriding your prompt. Like we could just as easily get rid of, the professionally lit white cyc wall and say, background is a busy or is a, city alleyway with graffiti or something like that. And it's going to do like pretty much whatever you ask it to, but you can also influence it with your background props and the structure of whatever you're making to be able to refine those things a little bit more or dial them in to your liking. But, Flux is super powerful, and, being able to have access to these cloud compute systems can, really, really, give you access to a lot of power. And especially if you don't have the money to go, get like an RTX 6000 Pro or something like that to run these big video models, or you don't have an H100 or an H200 server farm. It's really cool now that, even despite occasionally having to troubleshoot some things or run into some issues um, with new experimental beta systems that, occasionally, you're going to see those type of things. But the power that it allows you to leverage and the access that it gets you to once you're up and running, as soon as you work through these troubles the first time, you're pretty much locked and loaded in iClone to run for the rest of the day or as long as your session goes. So that makes things, pretty simple and easy. All right, so this is looking a little better here. Hopefully we have our ControlNet models in here. I'm gonna, like I said, try this again one more time with RunComfy and see if we can get things going for us. Let me pull my notepad up and just replace this code. And our other image should be done when we get back, and then I'll swap it out for RunComfy again, and hopefully that will work. If not, we'll go through our final little RunPod stuff over there, and then we'll probably be in good place to take some questions. So as you can see, it messed that hand up a little bit. And if you get something like that, I have noticed that if you crank up to like 0.65 on this ControlNet value, that'll probably tighten that up for you. Or maybe even just like 0.55 or zero point 0.6. But it just depends how much you want to drive it. And, it is AI. Occasionally you're gonna have to run a few seeds to ensure that you get what you want. But the cool thing is we're able to control it in, like ways that are, not weren't that easy before or not really something that was possible. And this has been a really fun tool to play with, and I'm been having a blast with it.
And again, with iClone, you have your cameras, your characters, your posing, any motion or any kind of expression that you want to either prompt or add in to the character. This is a great jump off point for being able to have a higher level of control and being able to choose how much influence our control nets or things like pose and candy lines either have on your characters or even your scenes. So just like the shower scene that you've
Oh, I
seen
got a
in
flipped
the AI
hand.
render beta, there's a lot going on to maintain things like the plant in the corner or the bathtub on the left side of the room, the shower on the right. So depending on how you want to build out your sets and the props you want to utilize, you can again add that into your overall control net sort of influence.
Oh,
Yeah, iClone gives you that extra level of detail that you're able to add to your AI renders as opposed to just simple text prompting. So what I do is I just experiment with different camera angles, different backgrounds, like James was saying. Once you get it all set up, then you're pretty much golden. You can just kind of mess around for the hour that you have or whatnot, and there's some really cool stuff you can pump out within that time for sure.
yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. Let's see what we can do here if we can get something else going. Um, our Run Comfy setup should be in now. You can see that's flipped our, now that we've changed our workflow back over here. We'll give this one more go with that. And if not, I'll show you how to put your files in on your run pod and we'll roll forwards. So I'm just going to add that same prompt back. Um, I don't want to do anything too crazy for this. Let's see. Although it can do it.
You
Just
should find a
sometimes
dance
takes a
where
little
she's
bit of
doing like the
dialing in.
square thing like this.
Yeah,
See how that works
I
out.
could swap it out. I mostly just want to get that run comfy going for us here because I know it totally does work great.
Hmm.
Let's add that in, and we should see all of our LoRAs here again. We'll get our flux realism. There it is. And we'll add Camilla. All right. And we'll just leave it at 20 steps and just let it run so it goes a little bit faster. Ah,
You guys good to get to the Q&A after this? Run through
yeah,
some of the questions people want.
I'm having some type of issue with the run comfy side right now. So I want to show them one more thing with that run pod if it's up, and if not, we'll be good to move on to questions.
Cool. RunComfy is already gone for the weekend.
They're out on vacation.
Ah. It's still not quite ready to go, but I can show you with the other one. So essentially, once your run pod's up, when you want to go in and add your LoRa's, you have to get access to your Jupyter lab, which is basically just a Linux box. So you're going to open up your Jupyter lab, and by default, let's see, I'm going to log out of it. So the first time that you get in, you have to actually log into this thing with your Jupyter token. And the way that you get access to your Jupyter Lab token once everything's launched and good to go is you can just come into your logs, to your log file over here and type in token. And it's going to be this code right here that you have to get access to that Linux computer the first time. Um, so after that, you can either put the token in here and create a new password, or you can just paste that in and you can log in with that token here. And essentially it'll be basically just like what you were kind of looking at over there in Run Comfy, but it pops up like this and you're looking for that Comfy UI folder just like you would on your local computer. And inside of your Comfy UI folder, you have your models folder. And inside of your models folder, you have your LoRa's. And to add them, all you have to essentially do is just drag over like any of your LoRa's that you may have. Since I already have Kevin and Camilla, I'll grab a different one just to show you the process from my local installation. So basically, I can take any of the LoRa's that I have and bring them in to get things going. So like I'll take like let's just say like this Melissa '06 and drop it in, and once you load that up the same way as Kevin or Camilla, you would now have the Melissa file that you could work with. Um, so basically, any of your LoRa's will load up to your Jupyter Lab like that, and once they've loaded up, essentially, I always recommend like coming back over here to Comfy and then just reloading the page one good time, making sure that it's loaded up your models. And if you get to this phase and you have anything that's not particularly acting right, it's always a good idea to come over here and just update all on your Comfy UI and make sure that all of that's working. And that'll take like 3 to 5 minutes to do that. But from the most part, once you get your pod up and you get everything connected, it should essentially just run exactly as expected, aside from the occasional issue that you may run into with a maybe a wrong version of CUDA or something that just doesn't play right with the system. So like I said, this one's still loading up. It's not quite there. I would have showed you on that one as well. But yeah, that's basically kind of the run of the land of how you can hook it up with cloud computing. And once you've done that, you're pretty much ready to just kind of dial in your settings and start to fire off renders inside of iClone.
Cool. Should you guys want to get to the Q&A here?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Sure.
That'll be fine.
All right. I've saved the chat up to now just so everyone knows. We had a lot of cool tips and tricks in the chat, so make sure you check that out. We'll send that out with you to you on Monday with the recording of this webinar. So we have a couple questions right off the bat from when we first started the webinar. The question from Oleg, who's actually been giving us some really good tips in the chat as well. Does built-in render have a render by layer option? And that would be with iClone. You guys want to answer
Um,
that?
Currently, not that I know of. I haven't seen it. There isn't a render by layer option available yet, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't build a custom workflow that sorted things into layers inside a Comfy UI for you. That's really actually kind of how I like to run Flux Context is more of like a compositing tool where I'm placing specific elements and making adjustments on layers that way.
Yeah, that's a little more complex, but yeah, definitely not a problem. Thanks for the question, though, Oleg. We'll get to the next one here from Robert. What is a good length of video that we can render using the system? I've seen a lot of 3 to 4 second AI videos, and I've even seen 2 minutes. Is a 2 minute video reasonable? What's the longest you've
So
done?
depending on your hardware and your workflow, so a lot of the new work, like we're gonna be working on implementing some of Benji's new like long length stuff that's actually gonna be really cool. He's been rendering like 3 to 5 minutes. Depending on some of the like talking portrait tools, they can go like 2 to 3 minutes pretty easily, even on like a 48 gig RAM system. But a lot of that comes down to your hardware, honestly. Like if you're running, lighter weight models, you're going to be able to push more in your VRAM. But if you're running like a full weight model, then you're even limited with like 96 gigs of VRAM to some extent. And that can still take a while to render. Um, like I said, it just depends on the model you're targeting, but I think long length videos are something that is definitely that should be coming soon for you guys to play with.
Cool, right on. Thanks for that,
And
Max.
for standard rendering, just because I saw that come through, obviously you just can go to the render module inside of iClone. You can render video or images and all the way up to 4K. Obviously, a myriad of different film backs are available to you in your camera options, and then also a lot of different preset resolutions as well. So if it's standard rendering that you're looking for, you've totally got that available to you just natively inside of iClone.
And oh, like just to add to that as well, we do have a free auto setup plugin for Unreal. So if you want to export your scenes to Unreal and render them by layer, like what you're mentioning here, you can do that as well. Just type in like, iClone auto setup for Unreal, and you'll find our page there. Free download. So it works really well. Just one click export into Unreal. Next question from DW here as well. For both RunPod and RunComfy, does your PC need to stay connected to the internet or running when rendering or on servers?
Um, for RunPod and RunComfy, you do need to be connected to the internet to access the pod, especially when you're connected to iClone. I think that could definitely cause you an issue if it wasn't. In
Awesome.
many cases, if you had a disconnect though, as long as the workflow was already processing inside a Comfy UI, there's a high probability that your render would still, process at a minimum inside a Comfy UI where you could pull it down from there. So if you ever had like a disconnect or something like that happen, there's ways where you may actually still be okay.
Right on. Okay. Yeah. And so you can run stuff online. You can run it online while you're doing other stuff with your PC.
Yeah, totally. And really, that's one of the biggest benefits of honestly running in the cloud is, once I've got like a workflow dialed in to where I know exactly what I want to do with it and it's more repetitive that I'm just trying to get specific shots, I'll spin up like 3 or 4 pods at once, honestly, and can run different things, like whether it be like backgrounds or LoRas or whatever at the same time and still keep my computer clean so that I'm not bogged down and I can keep working in iClone or processing mocap clips or whatever where our focus is for a particular job.
All right. We got an anonymous attendee. Dun dun dun. I tried the demo and I'm having some issues with temporal consistency, and the character also looks sort of in between photoreal and 3D. It's more of a comment, but any quick recommendations on that?
Yeah, so the best results that you're going to get are going to be right on that line between like dreaming and control. And the closer you get to dreaming, the more realism you're going to allow into it. But that also means you're going to get more bad renders. Like you're going to get some things that may be like a little wonky. Especially when I'm chasing something with like multiple LoRas with like a character and a prop or like two characters and a specific background. Like the more you add to the complexity, the harder it's going to be to achieve that task. And like I'm not gonna at all pretend to you like I'm gonna hit the perfect render on the first try every time. But like I may run something 5 times or I may run something 16 times, or in some cases if it's really hard and I'm frustrated with it, I may run even more and like just run a range of samples to try to get something exactly where I want. Like I don't think it's outside of the ordinary with AI to like really search for that seed because the image is honestly like 95% of the workflow. If your image isn't perfect, the video will never be perfect.
Absolutely. Okay, good tips. Philip Lemon asks, is there a link to next week's LoRa training? Yeah, I'm going to put the webinar link in the chat for everyone. If you've signed up for this webinar, you probably know where it is. We have put up the link for the upcoming webinar on LoRa that's going to be next week. So batch rendering with CC characters. It's going to be a fun time. So make sure you put that in your calendar. Hopefully everyone can join us again next week. That link to join up is in the chat. Okay, so Andrew asks a pretty newbie question. I think a lot of us are wondering, what's a LoRa?
Oh, a low rank adaptation file. And so what these are is basically it can be a person, it can be a place, it can be an art concept, it could be a style. It's essentially like a universal building block of the AI is how I would kind of look at it. Like you can bake in really anything. You can even bake in like an action or something like that. You can train them at the image layer or at the image level or also at like the video level. So they could be for Flux or they could be for WAN or you could have like a Camilla LoRa for Flux and also a Camilla LoRa for WAN so that you're controlling this at like multiple levels. And so like really like baking down that identity into it is it's kind of a real art because like you can put too much information in the LoRa and the background information will come through. And you have to decide whether you want to train something that's more general or something that's specific. Like if I want something that's specific for like a specific movie scene or something like that, then I may train that person to their specific wardrobe, like down to every detail. But like if it's, it doesn't mean that I also can't take like Camilla and then change her wardrobe with AI and change the background or anything along those lines as well.
Also, there's a lot of times where the model might not actually know what something is or might not have a reference. So if we're doing something that may have happened, in 1792, there's not a lot of that kind of photography or reference inside the models themselves. So we use LoRa's to train things like the shampoo bottle. It didn't necessarily know what a shampoo bottle was, but by using 15 images of a simple 3D model that trained that shampoo LoRa that was added in with Camilla. So overall, when we took that back through Flux, Flux was able to understand and maintain consistency of not only the character, but also the prop in the scene.
How many LoRas did you have for Camilla again? I forget. Or sorry, how
Um,
many images in the LoRa?
so that one was a 76 image training set.
Wow, okay.
It
That's pretty
was a lot
specific, yeah.
more. Um,
Okay. Next question from Adam here. Or you tried this with the last Quinn edit image model, or is this workflow just with the Flux model?
so I haven't tested this with Quinn, but this is just for Flux. I'm not sure that Quinn has all of this level of ControlNet yet. That's definitely on the models that I'll be moving into. I've used mostly a lot of Flux 1D and a lot of Flux context as well. And like I really love context, but the main reason I don't use context as much is because I feel like the background gets more blurry and it kind of halos the characters a little bit in comparison, and I get more like exaggerated features on like the female characters that I don't necessarily always want depending on what I'm trying to create. And so like I really like Flux context. I do. I think it's eventually going to be the more powerful model, but with the way the dev model works, I like to use it more to touch up my Flux 1 dev models, but I really still prefer Flux 1 dev with LoRa's,
Right on.
honestly.
Right on. Okay.
Um,
DW asks for the next question. We'll try and get through as many as we can here. Does this process create videos or images? Can it also create 3D animations?
So this process creates image. What we learned today was images, but what you would essentially do is have a second workflow for video that we'll talk about on week 3, is how to chain this from image straight to video. And so that's where we would tap in like WAN or something like that. And so right now for ControlNet, we're currently targeting WAN 2.1 with the intent to hopefully move into WAN 2.2 once VASE is supported there. And I've also seen new workflows with WAN 2.2 where people are actually using WAN 2.2 to generate the image and the video.
Hmm.
So they're getting like really, really high quality renders with WAN 2.2 for generating images, even though it was mostly designed for generating video.
Right on. Exciting stuff. Yeah. So, like I said before, we have 3 webinars today, next Friday, and the Friday after that. So make sure you sign up for all of them. Check back on the webinar page. Next question from Ralph. So essentially, you need to set up RunPod and the RunComfy template before you even start using AI render.
No, you can install it locally on your computer if you have enough power. Like, so if you have, like a lot of the stuff that it ships with is SD 1.5 that doesn't require near as much VRAM. But if you want to run these big models like Flux, then, and you don't have like a 4090 or a 3090 probably like minimum, um, assuming you want to run the full weight models, then you really need access to that horsepower. And once you get into video, you need even more sometimes. But luckily, there's lots of quantized models and GUF models like what you're seeing right here, which are designed to run on like a 3080 or a 3060, or even the 1.3 models can run on cards like, that only have like 6 gigs of VRAM. So,
Hmm.
there's lots of different entry points, but with some of this stuff, can you run the most high powered thing on the lowest powered hardware? No, that's probably not going to work out. But what you can do is, if you have enough horsepower to run iClone on your own computer, then you can link it up to something like RunComfy or RunPod, and that's going to give you the ability to, utilize their GPU power for, like I said, as low as with RunPod, you could get it on that A5000 for like 27 cent an hour.
Mhm.
It would take a long time to pay off a 4090 even at that price.
Right on. Okay, that's Ralph's question. Next one from Justin. I hope I'm saying it. I hope it's not Justin or Justin Powell. Will the final version of the Realision AI render plugin be able to do full body renders with clothes on IF RG or on if our GPU is powerful enough? That's
Can
kind
it
of a
render? Can it do a full body render with clothes? Yeah, it can.
yeah,
So it can do full body render right
Justin.
now. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing that was stopping it from doing full body. I just didn't like have her in a full body pose. But like, so one thing to kind of be aware of though is that you're gonna have less pixels. So, like in her face right now, if I render this, at 720 or 1080, like for video, 720 is like kind of what you can push right now with most open source models. Like 1080's even a stretch outside the hole without like doing some upresing to it. But so the reason I think that you see people mostly not trying to do full body renders as much is because you lose fidelity in the mouth and the eyes, because at 720 or 480, you're talking about like 30 pixels in the eyes or something like that. So like same thing with the hair. That's why those lower weight models get like grainy hair, and like I think that's always the first thing that suffers is hair and eyes and hands.
Mhm.
And you kind of have to realize that this stuff is all brand new and this is new technology. And it's not that you can't do a full body render. It's just you have to understand the caveats and understand that you may have to chase it a little bit harder to get that perfect render that you
You
That's
can
want.
also go um, portrait versus landscape as well
mhm.
and minimize that aspect ratio to add more pixels into that full body. So basically just trimming down and zooming in so you're getting again the maximum amount of pixels possible for that full body composition.
Yeah, you see a lot of the like YouTube shorts and Instagram stuff that's coming out now is portrait mode. That's one of the reasons
You got
why.
it.
Yeah. Okay, next question from Robert here. Looking at all the different workplaces that he's posted up there, they should be able to work on stylized characters as well as realistic. We just have to modify the prompt and keep the AI on a tight leash to keep it closer to the stylized models, correct?
Yeah.
Stylized
And
is
then,
actually easier.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you just don't have to blend in the realism. Like
Hmm.
you don't have to try to add that extra LoRA level. You would just try to target creating what you were actually making. You know, I mean her LoRA is trained off of her CG character. So if I wasn't overpowering it and reducing the strength of her LoRA, then that's how that would happen anyways.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
any style can become a LoRa. So if you have a specific art style or a specific studio look that you like, you can always train your LoRa in that style and then have that in the stack, just like we're using the realism LoRa to go to a more photoreal result. A stylized LoRa could easily be layered in and going more towards a tune style or certainly kind of a specific look and feel for the art dev.
Exactly. All right, we got a good question from John Medunas here. He's running an RTX 6000 Blackwell, which is pretty sweet.
Yep.
Good for you. I think I have the resources to run locally. Can I do this locally and not on RunPod?
Yes, you totally can. And if you want the exact steps, I like how I mentioned Benji earlier, like his video takes you directly through that local setup to actually just adapt your current install of Comfy UI. It comes with a portable install as well, but I would check out Benji's tutorial if you want to get up and running with your custom version, especially if you're running a 96 Blackwell, because that's um that's exactly what he runs, and I think you'll be quite pleased with his setup.
Yeah, for those of you who are curious, I put the link to Benji's video in the chat there, so you can check that out. All right, that's the next question. Another question from Ralph. I ran into an execution failed error message when rendering video with AI render. Is setting up a control net with RunComfy and RunPod critical to make AI render work properly?
Um, no, you don't have to run, like I said, you don't have to run it in the cloud. You can run it on
Mhm.
whatever you want.
Right. Local
Um,
machine.
Local machine's perfectly fine if you have the power. If not, then like I said, you're probably gonna, I mean, like I said, I'm running an RTX 6000 and it doesn't, it's great to run things locally, but I can't run 20 LoRas at one time on my own computer, like at the same time. I can't run 20 LoRas plus process three videos plus work on iClone or, other software that we use all the time too. Like my computer's being used like actively throughout the day. And for me
Mhm.
to give it up to just let it run videos is a sacrifice to me. And to me, once I have it ready, I want to send it up to the cloud architecture. One, because I want to burn their GPUs up and not mine. And two, because I have other stuff to do. And
Yeah.
so really, I think it just makes you faster, whether you don't have the power or whether you do, to still use cloud applications and to really understand how to empower those things, kind of in today's market here, and the way things are
And I think
with,
we'll explore that more in next week's webinar, right, with batch rendering and stuff.
yeah, totally.
Cool. All
And
right.
see, I'm gonna try to upload this ControlNet file. I really want you guys to see the Run Comfy up on my screen because it works great. And the reason it's not is because it was missing one ControlNet file. And it's little things like that, kid, that can throw your day off and keep you slowed down.
All right. Jose has a good question here. Will this
But
work
it's
with
all right.
multiple
Yeah.
characters in the same shot, image and video?
Yes. So essentially, as
Yes.
long as you have that also trained, right? So if we have Kevin and Camilla, and we want to maintain Kevin and Camilla throughout multiple shots, then you want to make sure that you have two strong LoRas already kind of set up for that to maintain that continuity.
Yeah. The lures are going to be essential when you have multiple characters.
Absolutely.
All right. I hope that answers your first question, Jose. Another question from Jose. regarding shot sizes and camera movements. Will the AI understand the prompts like Kling AI, or will it follow exactly what is sent from iClone regarding the camera angles and whatnot?
So when we get to the video part of stuff on week 3, like it will follow the camera movement, but I will say Juan is very sensitive to prompting. So if you go in there and start describing something that's like totally different in your Juan prompt than what you have in ControlNet, you can probably still find ways to override it or have it like somewhat ignore it. Like if you have a camera move and you have like you say like stationary camera or
Hmm.
something like that, I mean, and sometimes, if anything, I would say that Juan out of the box, like you can do lot with Juan, but sometimes it's hard to control like camera movements with Juan. And that's one of the really cool things about iClone is you can actually animate that camera. And because we're going video to video transfer pretty much, that allows us, to essentially send a video depth map and video pose map that's going to pass that over that's going to allow us to have that additional level of control really in comfy with the AI model.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, the more characters you have, like really, right now, I kind of look at this stuff like kind of like genie rules. Like you really only get like 3 wishes with most of this stuff, to be honest.
Hmm.
You push it much further than that, and you're asking for trouble. Like same thing with LoRa's. Like I mean, I've ran like 4 or 5 LoRa's at a time, and I also have had images where I pulled off that I had to run. I run like nothing really so much for like dancing or simple things like that, but more like horror and gore where I've ran like 75 images to pull like one thing off that I really wanted to do because I had to, train so many specific things that what the model wasn't really designed to do that I had to get it to pull off.
And for example, if you
Um,
prompt a crowd, right, you might end up with a room full of Camillas. So there are some different things that you have to try when you're iterating if you're introducing multiple characters into the scene for sure.
Awesome. All right. Any plans to implement one 2.2 from Jose again?
oh, is the probably the moment that they have base support. Like you could run one 2.2 image to video right now.
Hmm.
But like really the thing is we need vase and we need that control net like so that we can pass through depth and pose and canny to be able to guide that motion at that higher level. And so like we've seen some stuff come out with fun control and that's kind of promising. But I think what we're really kind of the whole world's really waiting on that 2.2 vase model to come out. And once that's there, it'll be wild because it's a beautiful model. I understand the sense of urgency to want to use it.
Awesome. A question from a different Jose here regarding the setup. I already have a RunPod account and a volume with a Comfy UI installation. What should I do to add the iClone nodes? Can I download them from Comfy UI Manager?
I imagine you could add them yourselves if you wanted, but it would basically just be like setting up your local installation. You're probably really much easier, like better off to just like fire up a separate volume for it. I mean, that's what I do. Like honestly, is I just create a separate storage to let it live on its own little area. But I mean, I see what you're saying. But I think you would have to do a little bit of additional work and just, make sure that you can access it through the URL. I know the devs at Real Illusion have done a lot of work kind of in the back end to make that a smooth transition. And I didn't write the code for that, so I can't really, tell you exactly how that works. But I can say it does make it a very, very easy transition when you're using their template.
Right on. Okay, we've got a few more questions, and then we'll leave you guys to check out the recording. And like I mentioned, I'll send the chat text to everyone along with the video recording later. So Jose, another question from the other Jose. How old does talking characters with lip sync render out in AI?
It really just depends on what you're trying to drive. So like, currently, you can get really close to the face and try to get pose control to knock it out, but really what you're wanting to do is use something like multi-talker. There's actually a brand new model that just it's called like Infinity Talk or something like that just dropped. See, it's on Benji's page. He literally dropped a video for it earlier today. So
Okay.
I'll just to confirm the name of it, I'll tell you real quick. Infinite Talk. And so this is something that'll probably be on the list to add as well soon. Once it's been vetted and fully tested, that's the thing. Like from an experimental point, you guys are more than welcome to push this tool as far as you can and, try to see what you're able to, if you're an advanced user, there's nothing, to say, hey, plug these things in, try them, see how it works for you, see what you're able to pull off. But Infinite Talk is nice because it's supposed to be able to do two people at the same time as well. And so, you just kind of got to know about what models are coming out. And when they first hit the pavement, they're usually really exciting, but they have initial limitations. And then as people continue to work with them, they build more condensed versions that you can run on less powerful GPUs. And then they put in additional features like ControlNet and LoRA support and things like that. And, you have to kind of just get in there and test these things and play with them and see what you're able to do and learn where the limitations are for what you're trying to create.
Right on. Okay, a few
Ultimately,
more
you'll get
questions.
better
So
results from humans than you will animals. So humanoids are a little bit easier to control.
Yeah.
well, the new one, that's the great thing about the new Infinite Talk. It's supposedly animals are going to be good to go too. I know
Oh,
that's an
nice.
exciting thing. That's been a really tough thing though. Like honestly, like James is totally right. Like we've like extensively tested a lot of different like talking portrait models. And like I can't tell you how heartbroken we were the first time when we were like, of course it's gonna make the turtle talk. And it did not make the turtle talk. But a lot of good stuff coming.
All
Fantasy
right.
talk's fun too. That's doing animals.
Fancy talk. All right. Um,
Fantasy, yeah.
fantasy. Okay. So
Yeah.
Slater's asking, will we get the render option for CC4 and not just upscale after the preview?
If you out of the CC4 tool.
Yeah.
So I've mostly been targeting video. So I've predominantly just been extensively rendering out of iClone.
Hmm.
So I can't necessarily answer that one for you, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I'm not sure either, Slater. So apologies for that. We can probably get back to you on that on the next webinar. Um, our
Yeah,
engineers are going to go over this webinar, all the Q&A, and give us fill in any blanks that we missed. Chris Morris, hey
yeah, I'm
Chris,
sure.
can you use multiple cards if you have them in one computer, like dual 3090s? Is that going to make a difference?
So there is like a multi GPU like type workflow where you can split different parts of the workflow. But you can't like combine them like they don't really like combine like transformers or something like that, like I wish it did
Voltron.
where you could just stack them because I've got another machine with dual 4090s and it would be really cool to be able to use both, but like I said, you kind of can. You can assign different parts of the workflow to a specific GPU, but you can't really stack them to be able to achieve a longer render.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Final question we're going to do from Colin here, right before the buzzer. I have a question regarding seeds. If you save a seed, does it create the same look and feel for the character, or does it vary depending on your prompt?
If the seed is the same, the prompt is the same, the pose is the same, everything is the same, you should get the same thing. Like when I was first showing James how to work the setup with RunPod a few months ago when we were playing with it, like and I got him up and going, like it was really that was one thing that was really awesome is I could basically, give him the same project, the same prompt, the same settings, and we would get identical renders on the same seed.
Wow, that's cool to know that it's really consistent like that. Interesting.
Yeah, it was actually pretty amazing to see that kind of occur. And then also just being able to drop those in and being able to see the workflow just from an image because it doesn't have to be a JSON file. Any of the output that you have, you can drop back into Comfy and basically see exactly what that node setup and that workflow is to generate that image. So it's really a consistent tool that once you start sharing something that you're both kind of happy with and you're entertaining the same settings for these LoRas and these ControlNet values, then you can basically maintain consistent results.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's exactly on the hour, and we just finished all of our Q&A. That's perfect timing. I've never seen it like that before. But yeah, thanks so much, Max and James, for being with us. It's awesome to see your troubleshooting workflow. Definitely, I know a lot of people in the chat appreciated that, and they were rooting for you. We got some really cool renders, and at least we got a lot of information to convey to you guys. Just so you're aware, if anyone didn't catch it, we are doing another webinar next Friday. This is going to be on batch rendering, and we'll talk more. You can check out the webinar link. I think I still have that saved. Oh, that's a different one. I'm going to post the webinar link for the upcoming webinar next week, so make sure you sign up for this one. And like I mentioned, I have saved the
Yeah,
chat, so we are going to be sending you guys out the chat. Had a lot of cool tips from different guys on there. We'll send that out with the video live recording of this webinar. Max, James, anything you guys want to say to sign off?
I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do with the Camilla and the Kevin, Laura. So get out there, have some fun. If you get the workflows going, throw them in the forum, social media, whatever. I'd love to see what you guys are up to. It's super awesome to get you using the tool. And, you guys are super creative, and I know you're going to come up with awesome ways to deploy this and push things to the next level. So it's always really exciting to see what the Real Illusion family's kind of up to and how you're thinking about using AI in your workflow.
Yeah, looking forward to it for sure, guys. James, anything you want to put out there?
Yeah, as artists and creators, I think everybody is asking the same questions around AI workflows and what that means for VFX, animation, and game designers, and lots of different media jobs out there. But this is something that we hope uh, gains a new level of control, offers a whole new world and a whole new realm to plug in those traditional Real Illusion tips and tricks for everything that we hold true for real-time animation and taking that to the next level. And it's just always nice to see Real Illusion continuing to evolve in the real time space.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us can agree. AI is no replacement for art. It's a tool that we can use to create art. And Realision has created some of those tools, Character Creator and iClone, that help you really control your iterations and use it together with AI to create, be as creative as you want. So, yeah, thanks everyone again so much for joining us today. We had a lot of people here, a lot of great questions, a lot of feedback from everyone. Make sure you sign in back next week, next Friday. Hope to see you again, same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be talking about a little bit more advanced stuff. But yeah, love to have you guys all here. Thanks again, James. Thanks again, Max. We'll sign off for today. So I'll see everyone later. Thanks for joining us today, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys.